Hey guys, it's Selwen here, today talking about the Windwalker Monk. And before jumping straight into it, do leave a comment on why you love Windwalker, or hate it, I guess, as that is always a joy to read. So what's it all about? Well, first, Windwalker possesses two types of resources, energy and chi. Much like a rogue, energy is going to be spent on a single DPS ability called Tiger Palm, costing 50 and generating 2 chi. That chi is then going to be spent on a variety of abilities like Blackout Kick, simply doing damage and costing 1 chi. But Tiger Palm has an 8% chance to make your next Blackout Kick free to use. Rising Sun Kick, hitting much harder and applies a healing reduction debuff, but costing 2 chi on a short cooldown. Fists of Fury is on a longer cooldown of 20 seconds and is a channel type of ability, hitting multiple times on all nearby enemies and costing 3 chi. Your artifact ability is called Strike of the Windlord, a big hitter and cleave ability, costing 2 chi on a longer cooldown of 40 seconds. Your main DPS cooldowns include Storm, Earth and Fire, creating 2 images of yourself to replicate your abilities, doing 45% of your damage done, and you can directly control who they attack. Touch of Death, lasting for 8 seconds as a debuff, and at the end it will deal the same amount of damage equal to 50% of your HP. Now, what makes Windwalker so different from your other melee DPS isn't just because you don't hit with your weapons and you're basically just hitting with your fists, but due to your mastery called Combo Strikes. Combo Strikes is what makes Windwalker. Essentially, what it does is, for any ability that isn't a repeat of your previous one, it will deal more damage, depending on your stat percentage. Meaning, if you do Tiger Palm and then a Blackout Kick, that Blackout Kick is gonna do extra damage from Combo Strikes, because it was a different ability from your previous one. Then if you do another Tiger Palm or any other ability that isn't Blackout Kick, it will continue doing that extra damage. But if you use 2 Blackout Kicks in a row, that second wouldn't benefit from it, and in turn you will lose DPS, and you don't want that to happen. More on that later. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk talents. And there isn't any multiple different builds to use as Windwalker, just some choices here or there depending on your preferences, with some clear choices if you want to get the best DPS available. So on tier 1, all can be useful. Chi Wave is a damaging / healing ability, jumping 7 times between friendlies and enemies. Now, the damage and healing isn't that high, but what's great about it is that it's on a short cooldown and counts for your mastery, so for those combo strikes that I talked about. So you can use it to kinda cheat your way on repeating 2 abilities. More on that later. Eye of the Tiger is equal in power, but it's a passive, adding a dot to your Tiger Palm that also heals you and do damage. But like I said, it's a passive, so it doesn't benefit you for your combo strikes. In the end, though, you can choose either really. If you think that you don't need Chi Wave to benefit your mastery, go for Eye of the Tiger. If not, experiment with Chi Wave and you will soon see the benefits. Again, more on that later. Next tier is just mobility based. As Windwalker, you do have a lot of mobility. These talents will just help you more on that front, so you can choose whatever. I personally like Tiger's Lust, since it gives you a new ability outside of my roles, plus breaks you out of slows and whatnot, and I can put on other people's, so it's nice to speed up a tank, especially if it's a Blood Decay. Third tier, Energizing Elixir will be best here as a DPS cooldown on 1 minute, replenishing all of your chi and energy. I'll talk more about on how to use it later, but the other choices can be easier to use if you don't like Elixir, and if you're new to Windwalker, like Power Strikes, granting your Tiger Palm an extra chi every 15 seconds. Problem with that is that it's almost random, as in you cannot plan that far ahead, so you never know if you're gonna need it when you have it. So more often than not, it's gonna go to waste. Like if you're sitting at 3 chi and you need to use Tiger Palm because of your mastery and Power Strikes is up and you end up losing it, making it more unreliable. As for Ascension, it's safer, gives you 6 chi in total instead of 5 and more energy regeneration, and comes close to Energizing Elixir if you have tier 21 and playing with Serenity, your last talent here. Overall though, Energizing Elixir will be best and you are here to learn on how to use it, so you should be fine. As for next tier, is again situational. Leg Sweep is usually the best for the stun, but when it doesn't work, the Black Ox statue can work nicely here in very niche situations with ads, pulling them to it, but again is rare to happen. Following is once again situational, now in survivability. The safe pick here is Healing Elixir, but the other two work great if there's either gonna be big magic damage or physical for dampen harm. So see for yourself when you're gonna need them, as they can help out your healers and even yourself to soak up more damage, and you can more freely continue your DPS. Tier 6 hit combo will be best, essentially just improving your mastery. For every successful combo strike that you do, you get a stacking damage buff. 2% for 6 times. If you're playing correctly, you will have it 100% of the time, making you do 12% more damage practically all the time. And lastly, Whirling Dragon Punch. Whirling or Whirlwind? Whirling is one of the best choices here and most fun, working as both an AoE ability and single target, only usable when Rising Sun Kick and Fist of Fury are on cooldown and is free of resources, so just something great to add to your combo strikes, and deals pretty good damage. Serenity also works, replacing your main CD, Storm, Earth and Fire, and for its duration you do 40% more damage, and your chi consuming abilities are free and have their cooldown reduced by 50%. Overall, they are pretty even, so you can choose your preferred playstyle. With the tier 21 though, it does favor Whirling Dragon Punch. I'll talk about both either way, so don't worry. As for Chi Orbit, works if there's multiple enemies and you don't care about life, your insanity and stuff. As for your multi-target build, nothing changes, alright? Your Chi Burst in the first tier can be better than Chi Wave, as it deals more damage, but Chi Wave is still perfectly usable for your mastery. And on the 6th tier, the same follows for hit combo versus the rest. It just provides a stable damage increase as opposed to your Tiger Zwen, which is great damage, but it's on a huge cooldown of 3 minutes, making it worthless in the long run. And rushing Jadewind is okay, but the 2 mark of the crane that it provides, again, more on that later, won't justify the loss of hit combo. Now, with all of that done, let's talk about your rotation-ish. First, let's just talk about your normal priorities, then go over your opener with the cooldowns, then on how Serenity works, and finish off with multi-target. Now, the reason I said rotation-ish is because you don't really have a set rotation like most specs, because again, due to your mastery. So you will essentially just be spamming whatever is available as long as it's not a repeat of your previous ability. That's the most important thing as a Windwalker. So when starting up, the first thing you're gonna need to do is build Chi. So Tiger Palm. It uses energy and is the only ability doing so, and you really only want to use it whenever below 4 Chi, but never above it, so you don't lose out on them, or when having nothing else to click, but obviously taking that Chi in mind. But remember, it cannot be a repeat of a previous ability. So for an example, you never want to do 2 Tiger Palm in a row just to generate 4 Chi, so you're gonna have to weave it in between your other abilities. Besides that, it's just keeping your energy ticking at all possible times. There is some exceptions, especially when you use an energizing elixir, more on that later, but keeping that energy rolling is something that you want to aim for, but when using your combo strikes correctly, so playing correctly, should happen naturally, but Chi and your other abilities will always take priority here. So now you have 2 Chi, and you can use one of your most powerful abilities, Rising Sun Kick. It has a relative short cooldown, depending on your haste, and you basically want to use it on a cooldown, and be always prepared to use it when available. And since it wasn't a repeat of your previous ability, it will do that extra damage. See where this is going? So after using it, you are out of Chi, so your only option is to use another Tiger Palm. Rising Sun Kick is still on cooldown, and you cannot use another Tiger Palm to get to Fists of Fury, for an example. So you'd use Blackout Kick. It only costs 1 Chi, so you can follow that up with another Tiger Palm. As for your free procs of Blackout Kick, nothing changes, just use them when you are about to use Blackout Kick anyway, and avoid as much as possible to use a Tiger Palm with the proc active, so you don't overwrite, unless you have no choice. So now you are at 3 Chi, Rising Sun Kick is still on cooldown, but you can use Fists of Fury, so you're just gonna channel it all. Like Rising Sun Kick, you just want to use it on cooldown. Your fists also have a damaging buff that stacks up from how many Rising Sun Kicks and Blackout Kicks you do, but you shouldn't delay it for such stacks. Whatever you have, use it when ready. Preferably when Rising Sun Kick is on cooldown, since you have that channel, you want to try and do it when your abilities are charging up, whenever possible. Once it ends, you go for another Tiger Palm, and Rising Sun Kick should be ready, so you use it again. If not, go for Whirlwind Dragon Punch. If it was indeed ready, use it afterwards. Whirling Dragon Punch follows the same idea, except it's free. You want to use it on cooldown whenever available, so when Rising Sun Kick and Fist of Fury are on CD, but you always want to try and fit a Tiger Palm before it if the cooldowns on those abilities allow it, even if you don't actually need a chi for it, because this way you will maximize how much Tiger Palms you are able to do and in turn get more chi, which will be useful for you in the future. That's essentially how your rotation is gonna roll. You don't really have a set path here, it's just using whatever is available as long as it's not a repeat ability and just following those priorities. So after that you got your 3 main abilities on cooldown, so you're doing pretty well. So you just build chi again for a Strike of the Windlord, or use it if you already had the chi, since it costs 2 chi like Rising Sun Kick. After that, keep on using those abilities on cooldown, fitting a Tiger Palm when possible, so in between to generate chi to always have them ready to use. In between that, your spender of chi is going to be Blackout Kick, just filling in time until your other more powerful abilities are ready. So this is when Chi Wave comes in as well. Since it counts as a combo ability, you can use it in order to use 2 Blackout Kicks, for an example. So if you add 2 chi and you don't have enough energy for another Tiger Palm, you use 1 Blackout Kick, then a Chi Wave and another Blackout Kick. Now this is an example, it doesn't mean this is always how you want to use it, but it's just to get an idea. Besides that, there's other abilities that can be used like that. Crackling Jade Lightning works in the same way, and the same goes for your Flying Serpent, which is your mobility type of ability, so it can be a little more dodgy to use it here. So you can also, but basically you can also use them in order to sort of repeat an ability if you so wish, or need if there's no other option, in order to not break your combo streak. Now obviously there is some planning involved here regarding to your Blackout Kicks. Like I said, you want to use your main abilities on cooldown, so you want to have your chi ready to go when they are, so don't abuse your Blackout Kicks too much. Besides that, it's better to just wait 1 to 2 seconds, so sort of a downtime, for your Rising Sun Kicks or Fist of Fury or any other to come ready to use, then just repeat a Blackout Kick or a Tiger Palm. And this is when Energizing Elixir would take place as well, but I'll talk about that next. But basically, just keep that up. Do your best to not repeat an ability and use them as they are ready to go. Now, what about your 3 cooldowns and how to open up? So your opener is the only time I can really say for sure what you want to click all the time. Even then, haste has an implication here, especially when Bloodlusted, since Rising Sun Kick, Fist of Fury and Whirlwind Dragon Punch cooldown benefit from it, so that will change how often you can use them, but I will do my best. So when starting up, before you start popping all of them coolies, you want to do a Tiger Palm, then Touch of Death. Touch of Death hits really hard after those 8 seconds, and you want to use it on cooldown. But it also benefits from your other abilities, because during its debuff uptime, all the damage that you do, 10% of it will add on top of its total damage, meaning stacking your other cooldowns and abilities with it is something that you want to do, but you should never really delay it too much for those occasions, but use it as fast as you can. With that set up, go for Storm, Earth and Fire, and they will just replicate your abilities. You are about to start putting out your biggest hitters, so that's when you want to use them, not before, when you are setting up your Chi and Touch of Death, because if you use it there on pull, there's a couple of seconds that you're losing out on their uptime, so remember that. Also remember, if there's ads or a second target, you have to click the ability again to make them attack your main target, as they will run off to attack anything they can. So then follow immediately with a Rising Sun Kick. Like before, it takes priority. Then you're gonna immediately pop your energizing elixir. You have enough energy here, but you want to put out damage quick, especially to take advantage of your images. Plus, the 5 chi here is perfect for your 2 following abilities. So use it and immediately go for your Fists of Fury. Once it ends, follow with Strike of the Windlord, then a Tiger Palm and a Whirlwind Dragon Punch right at the end of the Rising Sun Kick cooldown. If you cannot fit that Dragon Punch before Rising Sun Kick comes ready, use it first, then a Tiger Palm and then a Whirlwind Dragon Punch. Remember that you want to weave in a Tiger Palm as much as possible, so using it before Dragon Punch will help you with your chi in the future without sacrificing your combo strikes. After that, just keep it up with the same rules as before. Now, as for Storm, Earth and Fire, you have 2 charges and you don't want to use the other right when the first one finishes in your opener, but instead delay it a few seconds so you can line up with your Fist of Fury, or you can even go as far as delaying it with your next energizing elixir if it's doable for the situation that you are in or the fight that you are in. As long as you have 1 charge and not near the 2 charges, you can just leave it there ticking the cooldown and plan the best moment to use it. You want to combine it with your abilities as much as possible, and the elixir will help you achieve it, so take that in mind. As for energizing elixir itself, to simply put it, don't delay it, alright? You mostly want to use it for the chi, and you want to use it as much as possible, so in situations that you're gonna put out Fist of Fury, which is your highest costing ability, and preferably with the Storm, Earth and Fire that I just talked about, so you can fit more abilities during its window, and their timers line up perfectly, alright? And that covers it all. As for your multi-target, not a lot will change since Fist of Fury and Whirling Dragon Punch also AoE. They will simply take a higher priority here, and your Rising Sun Kick is more to be used just so it allows you to use Whirling Dragon Punch. All the rest stays the same, except you also get Spinning Crane Kick, which is the most unique type of AoE of any melee DPS. And don't be intimidated by how weird it seems to work. So you want to use it after those abilities are on cooldown, so Fist of Fury, Whirlwind Dragon Punch. And the way it works is that on itself its damage isn't that high, but you probably already noticed before that every time you use Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick and Rising Sun Kick, you apply Mark of Crane. For each mark applied, it's going to increase the damage of Spinning Crane Kick by 40%. So more targets you have marked, the more damage you're gonna do. So before using it, you're gonna play a single target rotation pretty much, with slightly different priorities that I just talked about. But always changing targets whenever you're using those abilities that apply Mark of the Crane. So just keep changing, alt-tabbing or clicking whatever you do, and applying on as many targets available. Just like if you were multi-dotting, if you had played a Shadow Priest or Affliction Warlock or something like that. Then once your other higher priority abilities are on cooldown and you add 3 chi, use it and watch them numbers and then keep that going. Best way to apply marks is Blackout Kicks and Tiger Palms as you play naturally, but remember your priorities and the combo strikes. And if using Chi Burst, use it on cooldown. As for Storm, Earth and Fire, they will apply marks on multiple targets because again they will swarm off and attack everything, making your job easier, and they also replicate Spinning Crane Kick, so use them to really pull some juicy AoE numbers. Remember that you can tell them to focus one target if you so need by pressing the ability again. And you can really abuse on how Spinning Crane Kick works, so practice, it takes some time to get used to it, don't screw up your combo points, remember your priorities. A single good use of Spinning Crane Kick is better than multiple but shit ones, so take that in mind. And that covers it all. As for Serenity, it's kinda hard to put it in order because it's gonna highly vary on the moment. The idea and rules from before all stay really, you're just gonna get your abilities far quicker during its window, and Tiger Palm are gonna be rare. So basically you would start with Tiger Palm and then Touch of Death, just like before, and then you wouldn't pop it straight away like your Storm, Earth and Fire, because you want to use Fists of Fury before it. The amount of time it takes to channel isn't really worth to fit in during that Serenity 8-second duration, so pop your Energy Elixir like before and then use Fist of Fury. After it ends, go for Serenity and Strike of the Windlord or Rising Sun Kick if available, then the idea here is just to do as many Rising Sun Kicks as you can. And then when it's on cooldown, you want to fill in with Blackout Kicks and even Spinning Crane Kicks, since your Chi Spenders are free and it deals more damage in the Tiger Palm, so you use that instead. Plus it will benefit your combo strikes as well. And then just keep that going, use another Rising Sun Kick or whatever the amount that you are able to do, and then on its last seconds, or say on its last second, you want to fit that Fist of Fury. It should be ready by now due to the cooldown reduction it provides, and this way you get it to use for free without taking a large chunk from Serenity, which is great. As for Strike of the Windlord, you always want to try and use it with it for the later uses, and the Energizing Elixir, you want to use it before for that Fist of Fury, so your Serenity uses stay exactly the same after this. Besides all of that, the rest stays the same. And that covers all of your rotations-ish. One last thing though, your Touch of Karma is mainly a survivability ability, but do make good uses out of it on cooldown whenever there's a big raid-wide damage, not only to help out the healers, but it will add a couple more DPS points to you, so remember that. Obviously remember to also use all of your crowd control that you have, like stun, sap in dungeons, mythic pluses and stuff, that's combined with your mobility and survivability gives the Windwalker a hell of a kit. And okay, now we are done. As for stats, and then to wrap up. So stats in Windwalker are pretty simple, as you would expect. Mastery is the best talent here, along with agility, so item level. No matter really what point you are with your character, those will be your best stats for the most part. Quickly followed by that is crit and versatility, so just for more raw damage, and then haste. Haste benefits you in an interesting way to your cooldowns, but overall it's gonna benefit you less to your DPS. Those stats might change often though, so remember to get on raid bots and start simming those stat weights, just to be sure. As for legendaries, the Helm is one of your best ones, reducing the cooldown of Strike of the Windlord and making your next Blackout Kick free to use, which just saves you up Chi, and the Chest is great, also making Crackling Jade Lightning a meaningful damaging ability that you want to use at max stacks, taking the least priority but benefiting your combo strikes, which can be helpful. Your Bracers also increases the duration of your images or Serenity per Chi used, which works great with that build. As for your other Legos, won't dramatically change too much, so nothing to talk about. Your tier 21 also benefits you greatly for your Blackout Kick free proc, which is great, but nothing changes here as well, just use when available and you need. Just don't use at 5 Chi so you don't lose out on that Chi that it gives you, but should never really happen. In conclusion, Windwalker can be weird and complex at first, but after a while of playing it, and when you get used to the combo strike gameplay, it really isn't, since there's barely any RNG to it. Hell, there's only one aspect of RNG to it, that is Blackout Kick with an exclamation point, so every time you play, it's gonna play mostly the same, so it's all in your hands and you have full control over it. Some will dislike it, some will like it. For me, I do enjoy it. I think it's one of the best designed DPS classes of Legion, with one fault, that is it can get boring after playing it for a long time, since again it plays for the most part the same way. Kicking bosses in the face though never gets old. And guys, that covers it all. And like I said in the beginning, do leave a comment on why you love or hate Windwalker, and since this is the guide, what's your biggest trouble with it? If you're looking for my add-ons, check down below, like and subscribe for more videos like this. As always, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.